Welcome back to Silent Sales Machine Radio. We are your co-hosts. I'm Brian.
And I'm Robin Joy.
And this is Coach's Corner.
Yes, it is.
You know, they say that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
Yeah, I've also heard them say that the first step is the hardest.
Well, who are these people? Well, thankfully, starting or restarting your Amazon business doesn't have to be that hard.
Right. If you're looking to start or restart your Amazon business, make sure you consider joining a Kickstart Bootcamp group.
Kickstart Bootcamp. Sounds intense. Robin Joy, tell us about what someone might get out of joining one of those groups.
Well, what we do there, I have had the privilege of running those boot camps lately, and I am just having a great time. What we do there is we get new sellers started. You know, we're always telling you, take action, take action. You got to take action. Mm-hmm. And some of you are out there going, okay, I'm ready to take action. I'm just not sure which action to take. Somebody get me started. Somebody tell me where to put my foot for that first step. Well, that's what we're going to do in the Kickstart Boot Camp. We're going to take you through 4 weeks in a limited Facebook group, where just a few people are there, the people that are in that particular class. You can ask any question you want, any time of the day for 4 weeks during that course. And that'll be in this discussion part of that Facebook group. What we're also going to do is we're going to have 4 live Zoom calls for questions and answers. So we can, discuss it, talk about it, share what's happened, and, see what's happening for other people so that we know we're not alone when it's happening for us as well. So we're going to do that. We're going to get you your Amazon seller account opened up. We're going to get your Keepa account opened up. Keepa is the one tool that we really think you need, but that's really all you need to get started. We'll talk about a couple of other tools as well. We'll talk about future, but during this time, we're going to get you those 2 accounts open for you. We're going to help you find one unit of one ASIN, something that matches. You're kind of limited in the beginning with restrictions, so find one thing that you can buy that matches an ASIN that you can sell. We're going to show you how to create a shipping plan and prep that item and get it set into Amazon's FBA warehouses and up for sale. And then we're going to send you off with a kind of a plan, an idea of how to do that over and over again and what other things are available to you in the community. But it's a great way for people to enter this community and get started in their first business.
One of the things I really like about that limited group is that it really makes you feel like you can ask the dumb questions.
Yeah.
Because
and we know they're not
group.
dumb questions.
I know, we know they're not dumb. You feel like they're dumb questions. And so this is a safe place, right?
Yeah. And Jim,
safe place where you can go.
Jim says it kind of turns those things that seem like mountains into molehills. Yep. We're going to hold your hand and kind of walk you through how that's supposed to go so that it's not too out there for you. Okay. So come and join us. That'll be a lot of fun.
So we actually, it feels like it's been a minute since we did actually recorded a podcast episode because we were gone for a few days. We just got back from Nashville, Tennessee, where we did the Path to 100 ASINs, the Replens Accelerator workshop.
Yes, that is, now I feel like everything's my favorite. That's one of my favorite things to do too. I just love the energy in the room and the people, the eyes opening and going, oh, what if we did this? Well, what about that? And we all answer all the questions and everybody in the room's going, oh, yeah, I didn't even think to ask that. That's great stuff. We take you through some planned things. We talk about some things in the class. What would you do? What would I do? Why? We practice examples.
Yeah, so we're not doing any more this year because
that was the last one for this year.
We're getting into Q4. We're in Q4 prep right now ourselves. Most people are. There's a virtual conference coming up a little bit later this year as well, and then we pretty much take the last, I would say off, but from Thanksgiving to the end of the year, we're not doing any sort of workshops or anything like that, right?
Right. Yeah. A lot of people are very busy in Q4. Yeah. We like to spend a lot of time with our families in Q4.
That's why we're doing this.
Yeah, exactly.
So our next workshop is going to be in Orlando 2 days prior to the Proven Conference. So if you are interested in finding out more information about that, go to provenamazoncourse.com/100 and get the deets.
Yes. And since you mentioned it, if you're interested in the Proven Conference and going there, of course, you want to go both the workshop and the Proven Conference if you haven't been before. The Proven Conference information you can get at theprovenconference.com.
Yep. Looking forward to seeing you there.
Yes. Come and meet us.
Now, we are continuing on with our series this week, which is our series of what we're calling 7 core competencies. I think there's actually more than 7, but 7 basic areas that we are diving into.
These are kind of things that you have to do every week.
Yeah, every week. In the beginning, we can only do sourcing until we have some other things to do. So the first couple of weeks might only be a few of the tasks, but eventually you do the whole thing. And you need to be good at all of them, or at least serviceable at all of them.
Right.
So because you're wearing all the hats, right? Or you and your business partner, you're wearing all the hats.
And you're working that out so that you can someday give that to somebody else to do those tasks for you. Yeah. And you can go build your business in another stream of income.
Right. And what we're trying to do here is really address the 3 potential governors that typically exist in the Amazon replens business, which are time, money, and
the ever popular ASINs.
Yes, ASINs usually is the biggest governor.
It's tough in the beginning,
right?
But there does come a time when you have more ASINs than you have money to spend.
Yeah,
I know in the beginning that seems a little far-fetched, but it really is true.
Can I just take a quick go off script moment here?
Oh dear. Well, I know. All right, let's do it.
This was totally not discussed. I love dropping these bombs on Robin.
It makes me a little nervous.
So at this last workshop, we had a number of coaching leaders who were there with us, and Chris Beam was one of those.
Yes.
And Chris came up at the end of the 2 days, right near the end of the 2 days anyway, and was sort of taking questions. Now, Chris Beam, she took the Amazon world by storm. She's got a phenomenal OA business, and she is like on it. She knows all the stuff, right?
Absolutely.
And someone asked, any tips for us, because it seems like they're really with online arbitrage, there's really no meat left on the bone. And because by the time you find stuff and factor in all your fees, which we're going to talk about a lot today, that there's really not much profit. And I loved Chris's response to this.
I remember clearly what she said.
What did she say?
She said, there's still meat on those bones.
Yeah, and why? Why are there still meat?
There's still lots of meat on those bones. Yeah, because, if you're restricting yourself to, a certain amount, then you're restricting yourself too much, right? What would you say?
I think the thing that landed for me was that it was that sort of question speaks to the level of inexperience.
Yeah.
She says, what you're really telling me is you don't have enough experience yet.
Yeah.
Because when you get enough experience, you will find all the meat on the bones that you want.
Yeah. And that's one of the things we said too.
Yes.
When you're brand new and this is your first 500 ASINs that you look at, you may not find any, you may find one. If you or I looked through that, and we wouldn't have either in the first few we looked at. But now, years later, we've looked at enough ASINs. We'll probably look at that same 500 ASINs and find, 10, 12 to test maybe. Yep. So what's the difference there? Why would that happen?
Well, I think a couple of things factor into that. Number one, we are way more familiar with and can get through 500 ASINs way faster.
Yes.
Much faster than a newer person can. And number two, the source. How do we get those 500 ASINs, right? We've gotten really good at identifying various strategies that we're going to use to find those test-worthy ASINs.
Yeah. And we're not scared because we have a balanced book of business.
We've been around the block here, right?
And once you have a balance, once you've built that first 75 or 100 ASINs and you're doing, $10,000 or $15,000 a month in sales, you're going to be able to, just go for it and pull that trigger. But it is natural to be nervous because you don't have any experience about what's going to happen if you pick this one.
Yeah, a lot of it's like stepping out on faith.
Yeah, so there is nothing wrong with being there.
Right, not at all.
Not at all. Be there, let yourself be there, and it will get better if you keep walking through that.
That's what I was going to say is what this just speaks to me about that this game is about longevity. It's
Yes.
not about short-term success. It's about long-term success. And a lot of what we focus on and help with the clients that we work with in the coaching program is the various abilities that exist in your business, the predictability, the sustainability, the scalability.
Yeah. All the abilities.
All the abilities. We want all the abilities, and your ability to find those ASINs comes in time. And yeah, I mean, we could show you how to make $1,000 this month, but that's not likely going to be sustainable. And we want to build a sustainable business. So that's why we're playing the long game here.
Yes, absolutely true. So I just want people to be comfortable that they're not alone there.
Yeah.
I work with a lot of people in the Kickstart, and I tell them, and I know they don't believe me sometimes when I'm saying it, but a lot of you believe me after a few weeks or months later, right? 6, 9, 12 months from now, you're going to wonder what the big deal was. But you must find some consistency, and you must find some consistency in these 7 core competencies that we're talking about in this series.
Right. So we were just to wrap up the governor, which is usually ASINs. I thought that was a great time to bring that up.
Yeah.
So now let's jump into the core competencies, quickly reviewing them.
Yeah.
Okay. Sourcing.
Yes.
Speaking to what we were just spending a lot of time on. Shopping, prepping, shipping, pricing, which we're going to cover today, replenishing, and then business acumen.
That one's going to be fun.
Business acumen is probably going to be
to all of them.
Yeah, it does. And it's probably going to be maybe a 2-part on its own, because there are a number of things there that you have to do that cover all of these things, kind of an umbrella of all that. Okay, so let's get into pricing. What do we mean by pricing?
Well, we have the opportunity as third-party sellers to put whatever price we choose on an ASIN. We can put it up for sale at whatever price we choose. Now, I can guarantee you that it won't sell for more than what you're pricing it at. If you price it at $10, I'll guarantee you're not going to sell it at $12. People are not going to offer you an extra $2 to buy that item.
Right.
Right. So in order for us to know how high it's gonna sell for, which we want the highest price we can get,
Absolutely.
right? I mean, there's some things to think about there. There's a mix, but we're gonna have to price it there to test it. Test it at that price. We don't have to stay at that price. We can always go down, but test it at that price. There are some limitations as far as Amazon's concerned. You can't price a toothpick at $400. They're going to give you a high pricing error. Okay, it needs to make sense. You need to have some reason that you're pricing it there. But I price so much higher than most people are comfortable doing. And there are a lot of times when you can price much higher. But the only way you know which ASINs you can price higher is to test.
Are the ones that you price higher.
Yes. Yes. And if they
testing.
sell there, then you can price them there. If they don't, you can go down a little bit and see if you can sell it at another price.
Well, one of the things that is really important when we're in the replen space, when we're building the sustainable, scalable, and predictable business, is we want to keep our risk low. Basically, we want to have the low, high model, which
especially when we're starting out, because we're taking money out of our pocket when we're starting out.
Yeah. So we want to keep our risk low. We want to keep our investment low, and we want to give ourselves the highest chance of success.
Yes.
Right. So pricing it within a range that we have evidence for is one of those things that is helping to keep our risk low.
Right. And where do we get that evidence?
We get it from Keepa.
Right. That tool we were talking about that we think that you need Keepa to do replens. That's the only thing you really need. There are some other things that make it a little easier, but we hate for you to spend a bunch of money on tools when you haven't made any money yet. Keepa is pretty important to help us know which ones to test. We can see historical pricing in a Keepa chart. Now, just to be clear, most of you know this, but I hear this sometimes. It was selling at. We don't know what it sold at. We don't know what price it sold at. We don't know how many sales exactly there were. We have some evidence that we can gather, though, and then we can test it to see what we can get out of it.
Well, and then we get proof. Once we're in there,
Then
we can see what was priced at, what we can price at, and what we sold at. That's the proof that we need to continue potentially selling on that ASIN, right?
That's right.
So in addition to the pricing parameters that we were talking about to help keep our risk low, we're also looking for these ASINs that are moving relatively quickly, because the last thing we want to do is drop a bunch of capital into some inventory that are tests and let it sit out there for 6 months before we get our money back.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because you're going to pay for storage when you do that. It's the cost of money, the cost of opportunity. Yeah, there are some real costs there. So let's talk about how we decide that pricing and what goes into that. And that
into
decision.
The velocity. We also get that from Keepa.
Right. Velocity we get from Keepa as well. So when we do the 3-step check, we want fast movers. We want ASINs that we feel like we can get in and out of within 30 to 45 days. And those are the ones that we test. Those are ones that have 30 or more sales rank drops on average per month. That's the way we do it. So whatever velocity you choose. But the historical pricing is something we need to see for a basement, right? We want to try to make sure we don't have to go below what it costs us to sell.
Right, which is the next thing we need to get into.
Yeah.
What does it cost us to sell the item? We need to know all the what I call ASIN level expenses that we need to include into our pricing model.
Right.
Okay.
Now we don't include the tools in our subscription to Amazon, our seller account, and things like that. Those are expenses for the company. We're talking about ASIN-related expenses.
Anything we can tie specifically to an ASIN, such as how much did the item cost?
Right. We have to buy it before we send it in. So there are some investments. The cost of the item itself.
We also need to know, or at least have a good estimate, a nice conservative estimate of how much is it going to cost us to get that item into FBA. Right. We usually start people around, like 50 cents a pound. 50 cents a pound, yeah.
Once you have some volume, then you can see what your averages truly are, and you can work on that. That's something that you work on those expense centers, right?
Yep. Other expenses that you need to make sure that you're accounting for at ASIN level would be any prep that is going directly toward that item. So I like to say this can be, if you're using a prep center, it's whatever your prep center fee is. If you're using a prep service, like someone that you know, or who's a family member, whatever they're charging you to do that, like we do, or if there's additional prep materials required. Let's say it's breakable, it needs a lot of bubble wrap, it needs its own box. I mean, there are additional expenses that can really pump up what you need to get out of an item because you're trying to package it correctly so that you don't get any customer service issues.
Right. That's true. But at this point, I'd like to say, let's don't be making up expenses. Right?
Oh, yeah.
So people try to be so conservative sometimes that they're going to add an extra $1 just for miscellaneous. And, then you're going to price yourself out. So you're going to have a balance there of what are real costs, what really needs to be an ASIN level expense, and make sure you're covering those in your break-even cost. So we're looking for a break-even cost. What would it cost us to sell that item after we send it in? So far, we've talked about costs that will cost us up front. But then when we sell the item, we have a couple of expenses as well, right? Yeah,
and these are the Amazon fees, the FBA fee and the referral fee. Okay, we also need to account for those. Now, those don't come out of pocket. So they're not factored into our return on investment. We haven't invested in the fees. But we do need to know what they are so that when we sell something that we've accounted for that. Here's a great example I like to talk about a lot. When I'm looking at Keepa charts with coaching clients sometimes, we'll pull up something and we're looking at a normal, nice, steady sort of price range. And all of a sudden there's a blip down to like a price that's $5 or $10 lower than where everyone else is selling this item. And when you hover in Keepa, you can actually see the store name. 9 times out of 10.
Usually don't know who that is, but.
No, I don't know. I never know who they are. But 9 times out of 10, that store name is brand new. They have zero feedbacks. They just got started. They don't understand their fees.
Sure.
And so they often leave out the referral fee and the FBA fee.
Right. So that is important. And let me just clarify. You said we don't figure referral fees and FBA fees in our ROI.
Yeah.
It is in the calculation, just not as the investment, because we didn't invest that amount, but it does come out of our proceeds.
It does, yes.
So, yeah. So I just want to make sure we're clear. We know how to figure ROI. And yeah, go ahead.
So then when we add all that stuff up, right, all of our ASIN level expenses, the cost of goods, the cost to ship to Amazon, how much did we have to put up front for prep, and then the FBA and the referral fee, this tells us what our break-even price needs to be.
Right.
Okay.
The FBA fee, sometimes called the pick and pack fee, sometimes called the fulfillment fee, it's all the same thing. That is to pay for customer service and for Amazon to ship the item to the customer when the customer buys it. That is based on size and weight. Okay. Right. The referral fee is a percentage of the sale price. So if you sell it for a little bit less, the referral fee will be a little bit less. But if you have a mentor or coach, really talk through that, because there are some breaks where it would make a difference if you priced it $14.99, for instance, in the grocery.
15 versus 1501.
15 versus 1501, you can have a higher percentage. There's some breaks there. And if you look, just like most things, if you search in Seller Central for referral fee, it'll give you a table of all the categories and where those breaks are. Same way with FBA fees.
So once we know our break even, then we can determine what our minimum, kind of what we need to sell it for to meet our minimum profit goal. And let me just set you up here, because I love the way you think about this and the way that you explain it to the people that we work with. What we hear a lot of the time is, oh, I can't find anything that's profitable. I can't find any, well, I shouldn't say this. We do hear that a lot too, right?
Yeah, we do.
I can't find a product that's priced what I need it to in order for me to make a profit on a listing. And you flip the script on that and turn it upside down. Yeah.
So we've kind of turned this over. I mean, this is, most of these things came from when Jim started telling us about how he's selling above the buy box. We always test as high as we can justify testing. So what it's selling at, what it's, what the current buy box is, has a lot to it. It could be that it's just the buy box for us where we are. Somebody else who has the inventory near them may have a completely different seller and a completely different price that we can't see. And our history that we're looking at in Keepa is based on one location at one time, and it's usually the lowest price for that day. So,
correct. Yeah.
There's a lot that goes into that, and you call that the multi-dimensional buy box. But what you're talking about, and I'm getting there, the difference, the way we kind of just turned it upside down, because what it costs, and we, to this day, source at those retailers that we already know, love, and trust. The Walmarts, the Targets, the Kroger's, Lowe's, Home Depot, Costco, Sam's. That's the Meijer. Yeah, that's where we shop now. And we've been doing this for a while. But those are sources that we know are good sources. They have the authority to sell the brands that they sell, and we don't have to worry about those receipts. So we shop there. We go wherever we go to find a price, and the price is what it is. Now, we could keep looking for days and see if we can't find a better price. But I haven't found that 90% of the time, 99% of the time, I can find a significantly different price, or one that doesn't give me diminishing returns on the time it takes to find it. So what do? If that's the price, that's the price. We can't control that.
So instead of looking for something that's a better price,
why don't we test selling it at the price we need it to be when it's at that price?
Only pay attention, zero in on the ASINs where there's evidence that you can sell it at the price you need to based on the cost you have.
Right.
So that's the flip it upside down, right?
Right. I'm going to test it at what I need to sell it at.
Yeah.
It is the price it is. I'm going to test it at the price I need to sell it at. And it's either going to sell there or not. If it does and meets at least my minimum requirements for replenishment, I'm going to replenish it. If it doesn't, I'm going to go down on my price and get it sold. protected my capital. No guarantees, but I have pretty good evidence that I can at least break even. I'm going to get the benefits of that sale. Amazon doesn't care whether I made money or not. They don't know and they don't care. Believe me, whether I made money or not.
What they care is you made a happy customer. That's
you
what
made a sale and your customer was happy. They want to see a lot of those. That's when they start lifting those restrictions. It gives you a chance to get good seller feedback. It gives you a chance to help your metrics. And that's really important. And when Q4 is coming up, right? So that sale is a really important thing, even if you didn't make any money.
Yep.
I like to test as much as I possibly can to keep those sales rolling, right? But again, the cost is what the cost is. Instead of looking at what it's selling for, or what the current price is, let's just try pricing it at the place we need it to be priced.
Well, I think, a little more conservatively than that. We are only interested in ASINs where we have evidence that it has been priced where we need it to be. We don't just make up a price. We don't.
No, we don't make up a price. We have some justification for that. But I'll go with, even if I don't have evidence, I'll go with testing at 20% ROI.
Oh, yeah.
Even if I don't have evidence that it's ever hit that price before.
So that's our minimum profit.
And many times, I mean, it surprises me how many times that we get a sale at that price. And, we're only going to send in a few at a time anyway. So I don't need to sell a whole bunch of them. Yeah. I'm going to go find a whole bunch more ASINs.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, right. Exactly. Well, one of the things we were talking about earlier this week is just the concept of someday we're going to do a podcast just on the numbers game and all the different numbers, why this whole business is a numbers game and all the different places that applies.
Just like most businesses.
Just like most businesses, right. The book of business that you would really like to have is the business that is 300 different ASINs, each selling between 4 to 6 times a month at the price you need it to sell for, not 4,000 units a month at 7% margin, right?
Right.
We're looking to do the least amount of work for the most amount of profit.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And we're looking to keep our risks low. Even after we have a balanced book of business, we want to have some risk mitigation in there. Yeah. We're not just throwing spaghetti at the wall.
Okay. So now we've identified, we've gone through the first few steps. We've sourced, we shopped, we prepped, we shipped. Now we're pricing. When do we actually start pricing those items?
For our test? Yeah. To see what we can sell it at. I send it in at the highest price that I can justify, whatever price it is that I decided to start my test. And then we send it in, and then we wait not only until Amazon receives it, but until it's showing available. And I just like to look in the manage all inventory and see when it's in the available column. And that's when I start the clock. I don't change my price for a week. I only do pricing once a week on the 4-week test. Go down a little bit if it didn't sell the first week. Go down a little bit if it didn't sell the second week. And my 4th week is my minimum ROI. It will either sell within 30 days at minimum ROI or more, or it won't. If it doesn't, I'll go down. I have pretty good indication that I can get out of that without losing money. No guarantees, but most of them I will be able to. And get my money back so I can get it into another test. That's the game. Keep those tests going. Make the decision. Am I going to replenish or not? If you are, replenish. If you're not, go down, get your money back. You may not make any money on it. That's okay. Don't hold on to it because you'll lose money on it.
You will. Like we see this a lot where people maybe came to us, to this community from a different community where they had all this inventory that maybe was bought for them, sort of the done for you solution. And the inventory is 6, 9, 13 months old. And you can't sell it.
They've paid more for it than what it cost them to buy the product.
Way more by the time you figure in the inbound, the storage fees, if you're going to recall it, or even have it destroyed. There's a lot
to go into that decision.
Yeah, there is. So I personally like to get it gone because if it's sitting there and it hasn't sold after 45 days, I don't want that daily reminder that I picked a bad one.
No.
Right? I mean, I've learned my lesson. Thank you very much. Let's get it going.
And it's not necessarily a bad one. It's just one that couldn't be replenished.
Yeah.
But it becomes a bad one when you let it sit there too long. When it sits there,
yes. Right. I just want to get it gone.
Okay, so I mentioned that when it becomes available in the available column of my Manage All Inventory screen in Seller Central. However, a customer can buy it before that a lot of times, right?
Yes, they can. It's called the In-Stock Head Start program. And I believe Amazon's enrolling people by default.
Yes, it's by default. You have to unenroll if you don't. You have to opt out on purpose if you don't want to be there.
Well, what this program does is basically allows your products to be available for customers to buy as soon as the carrier has, what's the word I'm looking for, has possession basically of your stuff.
Once you drop it off at UPS and they give you a receipt, they could make it available right then.
Right. Or UPS comes to your home or your warehouse or wherever it is and picks it up. When they scan it, boom. Usually then it triggers that item being available for sale in the In-Stock Head Start program.
Not on every ASIN. It's usually the faster moving ASINs, but those are the ones we're looking for, right?
Exactly. Yep.
And it doesn't seem to have anything to do with new sellers, even new sellers.
We've heard new sellers selling
often.
stuff.
They're like, oh, it wasn't even
I just sent it out yesterday and I already sold something, right? From that shipment. So here's the trick, though, with this. This is where it gets a little bit dicey, right?
Yeah.
If you start repricing your items, because it is technically available for sale.
Yes.
On a listing where everyone else actually has inventory available, it's not going to help you at all. So that's why we say don't start pricing or repricing your item until it becomes available to someone.
So let's finish up that thought. The In-Stock Head Start program makes that item available to the customer to buy sometimes right away when you drop it off at UPS. But the customer will know that it might be 10 days down the road. These customers are used to getting a 48-hour or less, what we call a prime window. And so if they buy it, even though it's priced down the road, it's not going to get to them until, 7 or 8 days later, then they really wanted that, or there was nothing else available. And man, those are the great ones when they sell before they even get there. If you have priced where you are. If you have been scared of your price and didn't put it up because you were scared of it and it sold before it actually even got to the warehouse, I'm thinking you're not pricing high enough.
Right.
So anyway, what happens then is a customer buys it, then we have to actually wait for the logistics of it to get into Amazon's hands and be able to ship it to the customer. So that's what the In-Stock Head Start program is. It makes it available even though it's outside of what they're used to
outside
doing.
The prime window.
Right. So what you're saying is we got to be careful not to start pricing until we're competing on time first.
Yeah, not dollars. Exactly.
Not dollars.
Yeah, time, not dollars.
Amazon has done a really, really, really good job of training their customers to be sensitive to time instead of money. Their customers will pay more, but they want it when they want it. And if they want it within 48 hours, they want it within 48 hours, and they'll buy yours before they'll buy the one that's going to be there in 10 days.
I just did this today. I was looking for a book that I was like, I've been meaning to go order. I need to order this. And finally, I need it tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
So I go to Amazon. I'm like, okay, I just show me the ones that are available same day or next day. Right. And it didn't matter the price. I needed it, so I bought it.
Yeah. Right, because you're having a meeting that you're gonna use it in, right?
Yeah. So just keep in mind though that when you do that, if you are selling items before they're actually available, and when we say not just shipment has arrived and shipment is in receiving status, but the item is in its final destination and it's actually available for someone, not until Amazon ships it to the customer are they actually going to start paying you out. So you may sell some items, but your account balance doesn't really change.
That's true. But it will. I mean, eventually, as soon as they ship it.
Yeah.
But that's a good thing to be aware of. And it'll show pending for payment until Amazon ships it, because they don't actually charge the customer. I don't think they can until they actually ship it out.
Exactly.
So be aware of those things. But let's don't start pricing. Let's don't start getting scared and lowering our price before it even gets within, to be able to ship to a customer, especially if other sellers have theirs available to ship to a customer. Going down on the price is not going to help usually in that case.
Yep. So we've been talking about pricing when you're in test mode. Now, let's say that during your test period, and you decide whatever it is for you and your business, you have actually sold something, and now, at least by our standards, that becomes a replenishable item when I begin to sell units. It meets my minimum requirements for replenishment, so I replenish it. So replenishment pricing.
Yes.
what are you doing here in this section?
I'm testing at a price that I need it to be. If it sells at that, I'm going to replenish it at that price.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So even if it's above my minimum price, if I know I can sell it at that price, I'm going to replenishing it.
Well, that's the whole goal, is to sell it above my minimum price. Right. So if I sold it in the first week at my highest price, then when I replenish it, I'm going to keep selling it at that price until the feedback from Amazon tells me that it's not selling at that price, and then I'll go in and make an adjustment.
Right. You describe this as a call and feedback.
Well, it's like I'm hollering, hey, can I sell it for this price? And Amazon says,
yes, you can. I'll buy it.
Yeah, you sold something at this price, right? And then I know we're getting all corny. And then I keep asking, hey, can I sell it at this price? And when I don't hear anything back, then I need to say,
I have some reason.
Can I sell it at this price, right? And I change my price.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. After the test is done, the test we like to be pretty clear so we don't end up with it. But once we're replenishing, keep it going as long as it'll go. Why not? Sometimes you'll have to dip a little bit and come back up, but man, I don't know why you'd give money back.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Let's not.
Well, I guess I can think of a few. There are different strategies, but when you're building that foundation, you need to keep turning that money over and get those incremental profits back as quickly as you can, and as much of it at a time as you can, for as little effort as you can.
All the abilities. Okay.
All the abilities.
We've talked about quite a number of things here when it comes to pricing. Let's boil it down to what we think. And by the way, this is our opinion in many cases. It's our frameworks. I mean, this is subject to... It's so many very ways subjective
to look at some of these things. Yes.
All I would suggest is that when you do your system, that you identify what that system is, so that when you're evaluating the results, you know what you were thinking at the time. Because if you're changing things every day, I'm going to change the price on this one, but not on that one. Then when you go to evaluate the results, you're like, what was I thinking here? This doesn't make sense. You don't have
a set of data you can look at. Exactly. It's not measurable.
It's not measurable, yeah.
The other thing that happens if you don't start creating your SOPs, and it doesn't mean you can't do something different, but note that as an exception, then you're never going to be able to let someone else do that work for you. If you're making a different kind of decision every time you look at a different ASIN, then you're never going to be able to tell somebody else how to do that, because they're never going to care about your business and understand the whole of what you're trying to accomplish as much as you are.
And that's what this whole series is about. Like, we know, like, you have to have all around game in the beginning, but the long-term goal here is to get this scaled. So you can hand it off to other resources who are doing work for you, and you need the consistency. You need the framework, the SOP that's defined, that says, this is how my business runs.
Right.
And so now let's get into the actual competencies for pricing.
Okay.
So price at the appropriate time.
Right.
This is when the item is available. Don't compete on price when you're not even in the window, the time window.
Yes. And if you're using a repricer on tests, which I usually have I shy away from encouraging people to do that, especially in the beginning. But if you are using a repricer, and just check it out and see, is it bringing my price down too soon and I'm not going to be able to sell it anyway? Sometimes that's why those prices get kind of, I hate the word tanked, but why they're going down faster than they probably ought to. Sometimes it's repricers getting out of control. So keep an eye on that and see what's happening.
All right. So price at the right times.
Yep.
Then understand that it's your pricing structure that helps keep your risk low.
Yes.
Okay, so have a structure, right? And then the next one is understand what it actually costs you to sell the item. You need to know sort of your all-in, your break-even cost. You need to know what that is. And finally,
creation of and adherence to a pricing strategy.
I know I let the cat out of the bag a long time ago on that one, but this is the whole point of this, right? Have a strategy. Yeah,
build the strategy and stick with it. Don't just write it down and throw it over the side. I mean, if you don't stick with it, it's going to be really, really hard to measure whether it's working or not.
Yes. And this is what we need to do. We need to plan, do, check, act, right? Is that how that goes, right? PDCA. So we need to do the plan. This is how we're going to do it. Or I can't remember exactly how it goes.
This is what we're going to do.
But we need to check it, and then we need to act, right? So we need to measure, and then we need to respond to how the measurement came about.
And you know what? There's a lot of advice out there, and you may have 3 or 4 things that you'd like to try. try one, see if it works, give it a minute. If it doesn't, go to the next one. Try that. It is okay to try something that doesn't work and then go try something else. In fact, it's encouraged. If it doesn't work, if it's not working, try something else. Tweak it a little.
We were saying this the other night. You're like, stop doing what doesn't work and do more of what does work.
Yeah.
This is the
pretty simple and straightforward.
kind of like one of the things in the corporate world is you do like this stop, start, continue. We're going to stop doing what doesn't work. We're going to start doing some new things, and we're going to continue doing what does work.
Yes.
Also, another way of plan, do, check, act, which comes from the information technology information library, or ITIL, because we were both in the IT space. Plan, do, check,
Continuous
act.
improvement cycles.
Make the plan, do it. So go execute that, check it, measure it, and then make adjustments accordingly. And this is continual cycle of continual service improvement or continual operational improvement.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
There's a reason, though. There's a reason that these are corporate strategies. We don't have to know everything about business, and you don't have to know what ITIL stands for. Yeah. Not at all. But we can help you because, we can help you kind of put things in a format that's measurable. That's the important part of that. That's what we're talking about.
Okay. So that wraps up the pricing strategy. In the next part of this series, we're going to talk about the next competency, which is
replenishing.
My favorite.
All right, we're both doing it now. I don't know. This is getting bad.
Yeah.
We just love this community and what we're doing and the things that we're doing so much. It's just we're living our best lives.
Yes, we are. It's speaking of some quite exciting news here.
Oh, yes.
I feel like it's exciting. It's exciting for me when I get something like this done. Exciting for you. We recently collaborated on a brand new, completely updated Keepa course called Keepa 360.
Yeah, it's not just updated though.
No, yeah, you're right. It's not just updated. It was like
we really
the majority
added
of this is
a whole bunch of ways to look at Keepa and things that you can get.
Which is why we call it 360, right? Some of the earlier strategies we did were like, here's a specific search. And then the next one was, here's 9 more specific searches, right?
Right, which people got a lot of value out of.
I think there's a ton of value in there. And we still have those in there, but then we rounded that out with the rest of the Keepa tool, the front end and the back end. We go through every component of this, and we actually have tracks set up in this new course as well for beginners, for intermediate, and for advanced. And so we really feel like this is a complete view of what Keepa does, whether you're new, whether you're a vet. So here's the deal.
Or whether you're coming back and it used to work differently.
Yeah, or the last time you looked
didn't realize all the updates Keepa has.
I would say last time you looked at Keepa Product Finder, you didn't even notice that there was a switch for hazmat items or meltable items. Right.
Back ordered. I love that.
Back ordered items. Yes. And Jim's been working close with the Keepa crew to add some additional features in there that we cover some of those in the course as well.
Yes.
So release date, not yet determined, but here's what I can tell you. Go to provenamazoncourse.com/Keepa360 to get signed up to be notified when that course becomes available. It's likely going to come out in Q4.
Great. Wonderful. Well, do you have a quote for us today, Brian?
Well, I don't know if I can take credit for this because you put it in here, but I love reading the quotes, so I will absolutely do it.
You go ahead and do it.
Okay. This quote comes to us from John Brosio. Goes like this. It's amazing how much easier life gets when you realize the lack of consistency hurts you more than the lack of intelligence. Oh, and this hits close to home because we talk a lot about consistency. Right.
We think we have to know it all. Jim calls it the get ready to get ready syndrome, that we never actually take action. And really knowing it all is not what helps. It's beginning to find some consistency that's going to make the difference. So I think that's a great quote.
I love it. And, we talk a lot about consistency and frequency, and we make up words like confrequency. And we had everyone in the workshop saying confrequency last week as well. But consistency, this is it. It doesn't matter what you're doing. Consistency is key. And that's how we just got started with consistence key. But it really is like, if you aren't doing something every day, every week in your business, doesn't mean that you can't take time off, of course. But when you're in that mode of working in your business, man, be consistent about it. That's what's going to make the difference.
Yeah. And when you're building your first 75, 100 ASINs, that's an intense, focused effort. That's the hard part. And that's when you're finding what's going to be working for you and what's not. And you need to get that intense, focused effort out of the way because you can't live on that level forever.
Right.
So get that stuff done and move on to the next thing.
So let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
When you're going through the pricing and something didn't exactly work out, or even if something did work out and you sold above the buy box, what do you do?
Go find some more ASINs. Let's
go find some more ASINs. Let's go find some more ASINs. Thanks, everyone.
Everybody.
Great to be back. We'll see you soon.
Hey, before we let you go, we've got a special segment that we do here once per week with our good friend Jeff Schick from jeffschick.com. He is a legal and policy expert on all things Amazon, Walmart, and e-commerce in general. He always has some good information for us. So Jeff, welcome back. What do you got for us today?
So I have something interesting from what I learned at the Proven Conference in Orlando. So a lot of people may have noticed that I did go to some of the sessions while I was there, which I think shocks people that I still go to learn. But one of the ones I went to was Ashlin and Hadden's session on insurance. And so what I learned in particular had to do with bundles and multi-packs. And so something that I learned that I think a lot of sellers are probably not aware of that's really interesting is that if you are creating bundles where you take items out of a manufacturer multi-pack packaging, under most insurance policy carrier guidelines, they would consider that manufacturing at that point. And so you're no longer covered under your general liability policy. You'd actually need a product liability. So to make this a little bit more understandable, I'll kind of take the example of where you go to Costco and you buy a 10-pack of M&Ms, where it's like, the box of 10 individual packages of M&Ms. When you buy that box of 10, if you were to take that box of 10 and put it with some other item of your choice that you're selling as a bundle, you haven't manufactured anything. You've just taken that box of 10 and you're just, bundling it, and it's still on, it follows Amazon policy, and it also follows the insurance guidelines. However, like Ashlin said, she said, if you open up that box of M&Ms, you take out 5 packets, so 5, of M&M, bags, and then you put those into a box with, something else that's your own product. Now we've actually just manufactured, because we took it out of its original manufacturer packaging, even though we didn't open the individual M&M packets. They're still sealed, factory sealed, but they're not in that box. And so now we've become a manufacturer. So before you start basically what we'd call like unbundling or bundling, you want to make sure that you're actually making sure you have proper insurance coverage. And then you have to know that what you're doing is materially changing the item. So from a legal standpoint, you're also, no longer covered by the first sale doctrine once you quote unquote unbundle or bundle something, because the fact that it's no longer being sold in the same condition that you purchased it. So that's just something to be aware of. Now, I'm not saying not to do it, but you just need to know what risk you're taking on. On that same line, one thing that I just like to remind people of is that Amazon's policy when it comes to multi-packs has been the same since 2018. It hasn't changed, but it is that if you're making a multi-pack of something, it has to be sold as a manufacturer in that multi-pack. So what that means is like, if you have a 2-pack of shampoo, then you need to be buying it as a 2-pack, where it's 2 bottles that are taped together by the manufacturer with a UPC. What you can't do is go and buy 2 single bottles, tape them together, and then send them on a 2-pack listing. So we actually do have someone right now who's suspended for that. They were hit with a supply chain audit for selling multi-packs of shampoos and conditioners. They didn't create the listing, but they had created the bundles themselves by buying singles and wrapping them together and slapping a sticker on that says sold as a set, do not separate. Under Amazon policy, because the manufacturer only sold those as singles, it actually violated the Amazon listing policy, because because what they would prefer for you to do is to sell them as individuals, but have a volume discount when someone buys 2 or more.
Wow. So I guess then the same would kind of apply then with the bundling side. If you buy that 10 pack and you're breaking them up to sell just individual ASINs, you're not even creating your own bundles, but you're selling individual packs of M&Ms, for example. That would then put you in the manufacturing space for insurance and also open you up to some more legal issues then too, because you unmanufactured a multi-pack. Is that correct?
Correct. And so, especially and you have to watch out, a lot of these multi-packs will say on the individual units, not for individual resale.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've got that, then you have even more of a potential, issue that pops up.
Okay, gotcha. So it's important then for anybody from a multi-pack standpoint to make sure that if you're buying something, you're selling it as the manufacturer multi-pack. And if you're doing branded bundles with your own unique items, then you should probably try to keep things together to avoid the manufacturing insurance issue. But if you did break them up, you'd have to be aware of those different facts. And I assume if it said not for individual resale, and you took it from 10 down to a 5 or 2 5-packs, that would count as kind of breaking that not for individual resale as well, right?
It does, because you're taking it out of that box of 10, which is what they intended it to be resold as, was a box of 10.
Wow. Well, as always, if anybody has questions too, if you're a branded bundler and you have questions for Jeff on is this allowed or not, you can reach out to him if you've got him on retainer. You can check him out at jeffschick.com. That link will be in the show notes. Jeff, thanks so much for being here today and looking forward to seeing you next week.
Sounds good. Thank you.